Good afternoon, folks, and thanks for joining us. My name's Tim Wheaton with the MMA Sucka Podcast, joined as always by Frazer Krohn, who got tickets to UFC London. Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't. Let's jump straight into it. UFC
Yeah, let's
London.
go. Let's
That's
go.
that's
UFC
it's
London, UFC, what is this, 286 or something? 286.
286.
All right, go on it.
Absolute car crash of a booking system. You have, I think, UFC Fight Club members, which is it's an $80 subscription to where you could get them on the Wednesday of last week. And by what I was reading online, not many people managed to get tickets through Fight Club. You then had, because it's held at the O2 Arena, if you're on the O2 phone network, you can get tickets on the Thursday. I'm lucky enough to be on O2. I had a look. The cheapest ticket I could buy, taking into account that the tickets came out at 10 o'clock or half 9 or whatever time. So I was bang on the time that they came out. I was in the queue beforehand for 10 or 15 minutes. The cheapest ticket that I could buy was £375.
Oh,
Cheapest
man.
ticket I could buy.
Come
It's
on.
the cheapest available. And that's not even for you were not talking cage side. We're not even talking first layer. I think that was second of 3 layers. So then I thought, okay, maybe they'll hold some back for general sale. Taking into account the O2 Arena, the capacity, I believe, let me just double check. So I don't want to get this wrong, but I think it is 21,000.
Yeah, I want to say right around
O2
there.
Arena capacity. I'm pretty sure it's 20,000. 20,000.
Yeah.
Or 20,000 capacity. There was 42,000 people in front of me in the queue. Work that out. And and for the cheapest that I was seeing people, so I gave up. I did some pretty detailed, in-depth maths. It's a 20,000 seat stadium. There's 42,000 people in front of me in the queue.
Yeah.
Unless the 22,000 people in front of me change their mind, I'm probably not getting tickets. So I gave up with that, taking into account as well that you probably had 5,000 for O2 priority and maybe 3,000. So you're looking at 12,000 tickets being put on general sale on the Friday. The cheapest ticket available, if you did get through, the cheapest ticket available, was £140, which I looked yesterday at $175.
Yeah.
And that is to be up in the nosebleeds, up in the gods. You are not getting the best view of the octagon there. Now, I appreciate.
Yeah,
go on.
Well, I'm looking at the website now, and it says, you can get it in section 400 for 170. And then when you go to that section and click on the seat, that seat price is not 170. It's like £600.
Exactly.
What is this?
These are not taken into account. I had tickets for the Edwards versus Woodley card in the O2 Arena before the pandemic. Obviously, that never went ahead.
Yeah,
I had tickets for that. I paid £80, and we were in the second layer. I think, from what I can recall, the O2 is, you got the nosebleeds, you got the second layer, you've then got the sort of ground. They call it ground level, but it's curved into the ground. It sort of goes on a diagonal into the ground. So I was on the second layer, £80. I'm more than happy to pay, £80 to go and see what was on paper quite a good fight night.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that I've got to almost double that for a worse seat on a card, which in my opinion is no better than that fight night card. Work that out. And for our American listeners, or our across seas listeners, or our foreign listeners, there is a cost of living crisis in the UK at the moment. People don't have, taking into account this is the end of January, Christmas has just gone as well. People do not have £300-400 to be shelling out on tickets for what, again, is quite an average card in my opinion. We'll go into break the card down a little bit more detail in a second, but just, yes, it's got a title fight, yes, it's got a banger on it, but outside of that, it's a poor fight night card in my opinion. Outside of the main and co-main, it's a poor fight night card.
Right. Yeah.
And if you compare that to the two pay-per-views, either sort of the sandwiching UFC 286, I'm questioning why the UFC are charging. I'm not for a minute thinking that Dana White is sat down trying to work out numbers and whatnot, but for £140 for the worst seat in the house, I've got some serious questions. You know,
And I don't think it's like, we can't say that they priced it to the fans and the fans have bought everything. This is mainly scalpers, or I'm not sure
for
what they're
sure.
actually called in the UK, but they're probably called something else. But I think these are ticket resellers who have purchased most of the UFC tickets. These aren't fans.
Without a doubt. And, you know, even on the Thursday, I was just, you know, you go on Twitter, you type in UFC London in the search bar, and you're seeing people, I've got 5 UFC London tickets bought for 200, selling for 300. It's like, come on, like, you're probably, the way it's done, you know, that's always going to happen. And that, you know, with every event, every football match, every concert, everything. But you've got such a small 21,000 or 20,000, sorry, for the O2 for UFC. It sold out in March. It sold out in July. July should have been in some sort of stadium.
Yes.
Why this card, a pay-per-view card, when, you know, the March card, people were still a little bit touch and go with COVID and whatnot. The March card should, you know, I think that was probably correct to be in at
it was a fight night. That was the Tom Aspinall.
It was a fight night.
Volkov.
Yeah. So that was the right, in my opinion, the right sort of venue for the fight night card, sort of easing back into it. After that card banged the way it did and sold out within seconds, put the July card in a bigger stadium.
I know.
There aren't many bigger indoor stadiums in the UK. There's one, I think it's in Manchester, and it's only 24,000. So that 3,000 is not going to make much of a difference. But the fact that Dana White was rumored to be looking at the Principality Stadium in Cardiff.
Yeah.
I just looked at it now. 74,500.
Yeah.
You put another big, massive fight on that card, I think it sells out. And it's got a stadium. You know, Anthony Joshua fought Carlos Takam there.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
You know, exactly. But this is what I'm saying. You know, you don't even have to have huge, massive names for it to sell out. It's bone idle from the UFC. You know, you've got, the annoying thing is you can't guarantee the weather, but you've got so many football stadiums in Birmingham, in Leon Edwards' hometown of Birmingham. You've got and the UFC have been to Birmingham before. Bellator have been to Birmingham on a much smaller scale. UFC have been to Nottingham before.
Yeah,
you know, these are Midlands-based like places. It's you know, I can speak. It's where I'm from. I know. I drive past. If I drive into, you know, I live about 20 minutes away from Birmingham. If I drive into Birmingham, I literally drive past 3 football stadiums on my way into Birmingham. Why not delay this fight card? Don't put it in. I know it's traditional to put it in March, but that's when we book the O2. Put it in May, put it in June, when you can guarantee nice weather, and put it in a football stadium when the football season's finished in June. You know, but Birmingham City Stadium's not massive, but you've got Aston Villa Stadium, you've got Wolverhampton Wanderers Stadium, you've got West Brom Stadium. All of these are literally in Birmingham, where Leon Edwards grew up, where Leon Edwards trains, where Leon Edwards is from. If you're going to build a card around Leon Edwards, yes, you can put it in his own country, but it's still a 2-hour train from Birmingham to London.
Yeah.
Put it in Birmingham, or put it in the Midlands, like you say. Like I say, you know, the UFC have been to Nottingham before. Make the effort if you're going to base a card around a guy, and it doesn't seem like they are making the effort with the card that they put on as well. I just don't, you know, no disrespect to any of the fighters on here, I don't think it's a very good card.
Well, and this is one thing that we've commented on the UFC dozens and dozens of times, of short-term thinking versus long-term thinking, where if they put something in any stadium in the UK, that is something that's talked about for generations to come, of like, I was there, I saw this moment, it was an incredible moment. The UFC would talk about it for decades, of like, that was a jewel in our crown. And they, like, the UFC 129, where they did a stadium in Toronto, that's still a moment that they talk about. Or the 2 times that they did a stadium in Australia, they still talk about it as like, that was one of our major moments in this organization. If they did that in the UK with an audience like that, why didn't they have just like really capitalize on this point? This might never happen again. Like, where, you know what I mean? This might not ever happen again. I actually think Leon wins this second fight or third fight here. I don't know if it happens again, that you get this kind of storyline going into a fight like this. I don't know why they wouldn't push harder to get into a stadium, even if you made comparable money. Like, obviously they made really good money from the O2, but even if you made less, I think the sport is about creating moments and creating memories. at least that's what I really think about when I think about this sport, is creating those long-term moments that last for more than a generation. And the UFC very much is always about short-term gains, short-term thinking over long-term stuff. But I agree with you. Like, it would have been really cool to see something unique and special coming out from the UFC. Like I don't know why they don't do stadium shows even in like Brazil. They could do a stadium. They can do a stadium almost anywhere. And I do get that they're like the bottle cap in the middle of the room and that's what you're watching. Dude, there's screens. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
It's an atmosphere thing.
It's an atmosphere thing. But have you ever seen an Anthony Joshua fight, a Tyson Fury fight? Even
at Wembley, it's a massive arena.
Wembley is 80,000. You can go to any stadium in the UK and the UFC, even if they don't sell it out. Think about how much money they're saving on Apex, on having this show at the weekend, I believe, is at the Apex.
That's bullshit. It's exhausting.
Exactly. Let's not get mistaken. The Apex was monumentally good.
Yes.
In when it was necessary.
It was great.
It was. We can't go into stadiums. We still want to put fights on.
Yeah.
We're losing money through ticket revenue. Okay, but we're not paying on sort of renting out a space, as it were.
Yeah.
The Apex is perfect for what it should have been used for.
Yeah. Awesome.
But in a few weeks, you've got Sandhagen versus Marlon Vera in the Apex.
That
one
sucks.
of, on paper, the best all-action fights that we're going to get this year. Or it's one of the best all-action fights that's scheduled this year, and it's in the Apex. Explain that to me. Explain that to me. And then, again, no disrespect, but you then got rumours of Aldana versus Pennington headlining a fight in an arena. What are you doing? Pennington, who isn't notorious for finishing fights. Aldana, yes, she's got really heavy hands, especially for a bantamweight female. But Corey Sandhagen and Marlon Vera, they've never been. I would struggle to name you a boring fight. My first going back to UFC London. My first UFC London, I saw Brad Pickett retire after Marlon Vera head kicked him. That this is the kind of, and that was as far back as 2015, 2016, maybe. This is the kind of caliber we're talking. And Marlon Vera has been literally I think the most boring fight he was in was against Jose Aldo when he just got his game shut down by Jose. But that's not a boring fight if you know what you're watching, kind of thing.
Yeah.
This UFC 286 card, it's in a 20,000 seater stadium, arena, sorry. When I genuinely think that it could have done Cardiff's Principality Stadium, 75,000. It could have done a football stadium of, Birmingham City's football stadium. I don't know how big that is, but I know St Andrews is the Birmingham City Stadium. You've got the seats, and then you've got obviously the seating on the pitch, then, and then you've got the octagon in the middle.
Who was the Scottish kid who just fought in like the Glasgow Stadium? Like they sold out a massive stadium for that.
I can't think off the top of my head.
But you keep talking. I'll figure it out.
We're talking massive show. Even this weekend, boxing hasn't got it right either. He had Artur Beterbiev versus Anthony Yarde, one of the best fights I've seen in a number of years in the SSE Arena at Wembley, tiny arena. People put bums on seats and or create the seats, and bums will sit on them, as it were. And going back to UFC 286, I did some research on it yesterday.
Josh Taylor's who we're
talking about. Josh Taylor against Jack Catterall. We spoke on that in depth.
Yeah. That was at the OVO Hydro, which is a massive. How many does that seat? It says, but it's a big one. It's a massive arena, or a massive stadium.
That's sold out, and the atmosphere in a stadium is going to be better than the atmosphere in the O2. I can guarantee you. And yes, it's open air, and yes, it's taking a bit of a risk, but the Principality's got a roof. It literally has a roof for the reason that so you can hold events in it.
Yes.
What are we doing here? And like I say, I did some research into sort of strength of the cards on paper.
Mm-hmm.
UFC London doesn't stack up. It's UFC 286, and we're referring it to UFC London because it's just easier. But UFC 285, It's got 2 title fights, Jones and Garn and Shevchenko and Grasso. It's got 6 former, either current champions or former champions. Or,
it's 285, yeah, 285.
285. So it's got 6 former champions, current champions, or former title contenders.
Wow.
It's got 11 ranked fighters, not including John Jones.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's got Bo Nickel, who is one of the most talked about people in the sport.
There's a hot prospect on it. UFC 286, on the other hand.
1 title fight.
Yeah.
Taking into account, yes, it's a trilogy, so there's that sort of added level of excitement, but, it's got 1 title fight. 4 people that are either a champion or have competed for the belt. In Leon Edwards, obviously the champion, Kamaru Usman, former champion, and is now competing for the belt. We've got Justin Gaethje, 2-time title challenger, and Marvin Vettori, who, yes, he competed for a belt. He was nowhere near beating Izzy. He's miles off it. And 8 ranked fighters, as opposed to 11 or 12 on UFC 285.
Yeah.
In those 8 ranked fighters, we're including Jack Shaw, who's ranked at bantamweight, but not at featherweight where he's competing. Okay. We're including people like Casey O'Neill, who I think is one of the best prospects, but she's coming off a big knee injury, so she we've got Juliana Miller, who is 3-1, not ranked. Coming off a tough victory. We've got, I think, 3 debutants. 3 English debutants in Chris Duncan, who currently doesn't have a fight because his opponent pulled out. Sam Patterson and Chris Duncan, who they're all really good, fun fighters, but this is a pay-per-view. Remember, this is going to cost you $175 to sit miles away from it. It's just, and then even if we throw it forward, we'll go on to talk about UFC 287 and the announcement this week, but
sure.
Already that has 1 title fight, so already that has as many title fights as UFC 286.
Well, I think 287 doesn't have 2 because it has a Shevchenko on it.
No, that's 285.
Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry,
but you're right. You've got 5 former or current champions or title contenders. Let's just quickly pull up the 286 card. 287 card.
Yeah, I can see Giblert. You got Holland, you got Raul Rosas, Rob Font, Adrian Yanez. That's pretty good already.
You got Calvin Gastelum down there, who obviously put on one of the fights and was a title. Well, I mean, he walked around holding the belt like a dickhead, but and then you've got 9 ranked fighters already on the card in Michelle Waterson, I think Cynthia Calvillo is ranked, Gastelum, Chris Curtis, Rob Font and Adrian Yanez, and then you've got Kevin Holland and Ponzinibbio aren't ranked at the moment, but that's going to be a fun fight,
I know.
And Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal. And you've also got Raul Rosas Jr. So, UFC London for me is, on paper, a disappointing card, especially the fact that it's not gonna, it's not quite gonna stack up to how we think that it should on paper, in my opinion. It's the weakest of the 3 cards. And even, if we look at the upcoming UFC 284 card, that's got a super fight on it. That's got, we're talking lightweight championship of the world between the lightweight champion and the featherweight champion. You've then got an interim featherweight champion with one of the most exciting strikers in Yair Rodriguez. And then the card gets a little bit dicey from there on out. But you've got plenty of talking, you've got 2 title fights, one of which is an absolute super fight. Yeah. And you've got people like, Jack Della Maddalena and Jimmy Crute, Justin Taffer, all these guys, Jamie Mullarkey never in a boring fight, Shane Young making his return. You got Tyson Pedro fighting again. And we were meant to have the debut of somebody's. Is it Justin Taffer? No, it's not. We were meant to have the debut of Junior Taffer was meant to debut, but I believe that he's out of that fight. But even that's exciting,
But let me ask you. So we've complained for 20 minutes on air. That doesn't even include what we said off air, by the way. So we complained for 20 minutes. Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman 3. This is the Stockholm syndrome that we live in. You're still excited for it?
I am absolutely buzzing for it, and I will, without a doubt, probably buy the pay-per-view in the UK, which has pissed me off because they've got me. This is the annoying thing. UFC 286, but that is because I think I can only speak from someone that is you know, we cover this sport day in, day out. You know, I'm constantly listening to podcasts, constantly,
Always.
you know, jotting down little ideas here and there of, oh, this could be a good article, this could be a good talking point on Monday. I mean, you know, that's just my UFC London notes. Where we're looking, and then that's what else we've got to talk about. You know, we've got a whole another. You know, we're constantly in this sport, and being from the UK and having that number. You know, you've got what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe 12 UK based fighters or UK national fighters. You know, we're including Casey O'Neill because obviously she's Scottish but trains out of America and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you've got, you know, that I forgot Jennifer Meyer obviously competed for the belt back in the day as well. But you've got excited, you know, Lerone Murphy versus Nathaniel Wood. That's a main card fight in my opinion. That should be main card over.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. That's one of the better ones on the card. Like that should be main.
You know, for me on paper, I think that's the third best fight on the card. You know, you've obviously got the main event is always going to be the best because it's so compelling. Yeah. We'll go into talk about it in much more detail during fight week. Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev, absolutely phenomenal fight on paper.
That's amazing.
But it also does confuse me slightly as to none of these guys have got any affiliation to the UK. And yes, it's a pay-per-view and it's pay-per-view worthy without a doubt, but it just seems like a strange one to put on, in my opinion. It just feels like a strange one to put on in the UK. You know, I'm not complaining because to watch these two guys batter the shit out of each other about 9:30 in the evening is not something I'm ever going to complain about. But then, you know, I don't have much interest in Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolodzi in comparison to the interest that I have in the return of Casey O'Neill, Lerone Murphy versus Nathaniel Wood. Even, you know, further down, you know, Mohamed Mokhev's on there, phenomenal prospect. And Veronica Macedo, I'm really excited to watch as well.
She's not a ticket seller, though. She's not a ticket seller.
That's true. You know, she's not a ticket seller.
But excited to watch either way.
That's nice. She's got a fun style and an exciting style. But yeah, I agree, she's not a ticket seller. But if you look at the prelims for this, the only fight that I would sort of, you know, if I didn't watch it live, I'd be gutted. It's Lerone Murphy versus Nathaniel Wood. I mean, I'm excited for Jai Herbert. I think Jai is really good, but he's been on the wrong end of some really bad ones. You know, I'd love to watch Casey O'Neill live, but, you know, am I gutted about not seeing, you know, sort of Jake Hadley versus Malcolm Gordon?
I know.
You know, no. Am I gutted about not seeing the return of Joanne Wood against Luana Carolina? Joanne Wood hasn't won since 2021.
Sure.
You know, she hasn't put back-to-back wins together since 2018, 2019. So it's like, you know, yes, there's a lot of sort of local talent, but this is a pay-per-view card. Yeah. Which is what we have to keep on ramming down people. So it's a pay-per-view. So if you're in the US, you have to pay to watch this. Are you going to pay to watch a main card of Jack Shaw versus Makwan Amirkhani? Jack Shaw coming off a loss at bantamweight, making his featherweight debut, but Makwan Amirkhani is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. That's a pay-per-view fight, apparently. Daniel Rodriguez versus Gunnar Nelson. Gunnar Nelson fights once a year in London.
And he's not going to win this one either. It's not.
And hasn't put back-to-back wins together. The last time he put back-to-back wins together was 2017.
I know.
You know, Marvin Vettori coming. I think, you know, he's 1-2 in his last. Yeah, he's 1-2 in his last 3 fights. Lost against Izzy, lost against Whittaker, beat Paulo Costa. You know, are you gutted if you miss Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolodzi? I'm not. No. I'm gutted if I miss Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev. I'm gutted if I miss Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman. Phenomenal fights at the top, but, you know, the risk that we take with being MMA fans and hyping this up is Kamaru Usman. He was quite this year. His hand was in a cast.
I know.
Once he hits a pad wrong on fight week, breaks his hand. We've got.
I'm surprised that they booked it. I know that they wanted to strike when the iron was hot and all that kind of stuff, but I'm very surprised that they actually booked this one, considering he was saying I need to take time off to like recover my head, recover my hand, and then they just kind of booked it.
I mean, August to March, August to March, but he's going to be sparring in January. It's an 8-week camp. You know, It's not a long time after a knockout as bad. This isn't a TKO where he wasn't intelligently defending himself.
He's stiff. He was out.
Could not intelligently defend himself because
he said,
the others carried him
remember what
safe.
he said? He was like, I remember being in the cage and then I woke up in
And
an
then
ambulance.
exactly, and this is taking into account that this guy was walking around in the cage after the fact. You know, he was stood with, I think it was Herb Dean, was stood with both of the guys. It wasn't like he was rushed into an ambulance. He kind of regained consciousness and then didn't remember. There's a whole, we're talking, 10, 15 minutes from when Leon landed the head kick.
Yeah.
Even more to when Usman is in the ambulance, and he doesn't have any recollection of this, and he's jumping almost straight back in there. That was August 20th as well. So
Yeah.
It's not a long time. I think that plays into Leon's hands, but we'll have to put that on ice. We've got 2 pay-per-views before this one, and yet this is all we can talk about at the moment.
Oh, and major cosign with you on that too. Of like, when once a fighter gets knocked out, they're easier to knock out in the future. With that little space of time, it's not looking good. Anyway, let's move forward because there was some really fun announcements that I actually do want to cover off, and it's not UFC 287 quite yet, but we'll get to the UFC 287 in a minute. Bantamweight continues. Bantamweight is just non-stoppable here. So what we had booked, I think just this week, Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. Just amazing.
So many questions.
And that's not at the Apex. That's something else in Vegas, but it's not at the Apex though. Also, Marlon Vera versus Corey Sandhagen was announced this week. Bantamweight, just book. It's like drawing names out of a hat. Any way you book them are bangers. But Marlon Cheeto Vera versus Corey Sandhagen. Oh my God, Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. Where do we even start with this? What do we talk about? How do we do? I'm so excited for Bantamweight.
This is the one, isn't it, that for Marlon Vera to really show that he is that championship caliber, because we think that he's championship caliber now, without a doubt, because look at him for a start. He's absolutely quality again. But getting a win over Rob Font, does that mean that you should be next in line for the title? Probably not. Getting a win over Corey Sandhagen, does that mean you should be next for the title?
Yeah.
It certainly puts you within the top 2 people in the division, in my opinion.
Yep.
We've had just phenomenal fights announced all week.
Oh, and Song Yadong versus Ricky Simone.
Song Yadong versus Ricky Simone. We've got Pedro Munoz versus Chris Gutierrez. I wrote an article. I think this was this week or the beginning of last week or the end of the week before. But yeah, we had Saeed Nurmagomedov taking on Jonathan Martinez. I think that's this weekend or no, it's in a few weekends' time, in March the 11th. So Bantamweight is hot. We knew Bantamweight was hot, and there's no doubt about it now. You can't deny it. Merab versus Petr Yan. Petr Yan got taken down by Sean O'Malley. He got taken down multiple times by Aljamain Sterling. If there's a team that knows how to fight Petr Yan, it's Longo and Serra and Merab and Aljamain Sterling. These guys have had best part of 9 rounds together now. Aljamain, I can't remember when the first fight ended, but he's gone 25 minutes. He's felt his power, he's felt his movement, he knows his range, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Merab, we saw against Marlon Moraes, he's there to be hit and hurt.
Yeah.
He's got a style where he will take 7 on the chin to try and land that takedown. Oh. Can you take 7 on the chin from a slick boxer like Petr Yan? And what I think is also interesting, obviously it's Merab's first headline.
Mm-hmm.
Irrelevant. I mean, the guy has got 5 lungs. He is not going to tire in this fight. And, can we see him wear out Petr Yan to the point where Petr Yan's struggling in those final 2 rounds? Fascinating fight on paper to break down, let alone to watch. And then, like you say, we've got Bantamweight is just
unbelievable
banging at the moment. But the most important fight this week announced: Floyd Mayweather versus Aaron Chalmers.
Who is Aaron?
Exactly. I don't want to hear any more on it. If you have to ask, you work in this space, you work professionally in this space, it's your full-time job. Who is Aaron Chalmers?
I don't know who that is. I don't know who Aaron Chalmers is. I'm sorry.
He made his career being on Geordie Shore, which is a UK version of Jersey Shore.
Yeah. Okay.
Trash TV. And I am ashamed to admit that I used to watch it when I was at university. But,
I understand.
We all make our mistakes. That's Conor McGregor. We all make mistakes. But then He, I think he went 2-2 with Bellator. He fought in Bama.
Sure.
He's got hands. Yeah.
He's not gonna beat Floyd.
So's the local boxercise instructor has got hands. She's not fighting Floyd Mayweather. He's 1-0 as a boxer against a guy whose record was, at the time of writing my article, 6-38-4. Now he's jumping in with Floyd Mayweather. Again, at the O2 Arena, which will probably sell out. They're at the O2 Arena. Aaron Chalmers versus Floyd Mayweather will probably sell out.
But here's the thing.
Later, Leon's there with Kamaru.
Yeah, I know. The UFC doesn't differentiate itself. Of like Bellator can do that, the PFL can do that, Floyd versus some guy can do that. Why doesn't the UFC differentiate itself from the pack when it can do that? But did you remember the morning how exciting that was? Of like, oh, Floyd versus Liam Harrison for like 2 hours. We had to talk about that, and one championship was like no. And then Liam was like, my knee. I don't think he ever got a contract offered. I think it was...
And he said, didn't he? Like, oh, I hope to be, I hope to have this one, hope to have this fight one day. It's like, well, of course you do, because it's a competitive fight. There's at least a talking point there.
Yeah.
There's at least a talking point of what happens if. And Liam Harrison isn't the kind of guy. He's not a deadgy YouTuber. He's not Logan Paul. He is a lifelong combat sports, martial artist.
He's a UK legend, in all honesty. Like his
you get a different. I'm telling you now, the caliber of person attending the O2 Arena, I think it's February the 20th or 25th, for Aaron Chalmers versus Floyd Mayweather, will predominantly, I'd say, 80 to 90% not be combat sports fans.
No.
There will be people looking for an Instagram picture. There will be people wanting to see. I just don't get it. I
bet we can get media pass for that one. No problem. No questions asked. I think we're getting into that one. I don't want to go though.
No, absolutely not. But they're probably giving them away. I think if you're listening to this, apply. And you don't even. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about not getting it. They'll probably put you up in a hotel because no one's going to want to cover this with any legitimacy. But, it is what it is. Let's go to talk about the real big fight announcement this week. UFC 287, Adesanya versus Pereira 2. In co-main event, we've got Gilbert Burns versus Masvidal.
Yeah.
This is exciting. I'm excited. Because we weren't convinced that this would happen. There were rumors of Adesanya needing to take more time out. Pereira saying, look, if Adesanya isn't ready, I'll fight Whittaker or I'll go up and fight Hill.
I would have liked the Whittaker.
I would have liked the Whittaker, but I'm happy that this one's happening, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I do question of like, again, recovering from knockouts takes months. It takes a long time. Like it's a dangerous thing to get in there too soon. Do you think Israel is getting in there a bit too soon? I think he should have taken another few months to recover.
So this card is what? Is this April? I think
this is April.
This goes down in April. And they last competed in what, December?
Yeah. So I guess it is 7-8 months. Not even. It's like 5 months, and he's going to be sparring and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was the beginning of November, so we're talking 5 months here.
5 months. I don't know if that's enough time to recover. I know he was on his feet, all that stuff, but
a legitimate TKO as opposed to Usman's when he physically couldn't defend himself.
Yeah,
it's slightly different because he wasn't put out cold. It's not a long time at all.
No.
No,
it's not.
And I think against a guy like Pereira,
yes.
And it'd be different if let's say Alexander Volkanovski and Makhachev, they fight to a 25-minute really close fight. Majority of it's taking part in the wrestling realm of control, and we have to debate that.
Sure.
If they were to compete again on this card, you could probably get away with that. 2 or 3 months wrestling heavy, and you don't take a lot of damage. Everyone says that you take the damage in sparring, but both men took damage in this fight. Even Pereira, let's be honest, at the end of that first round, if it's 10 seconds longer, we're not even debating this because he finishes him in the first round.
It's done, yeah.
I didn't quite realize how tight a turnaround that is. We're talking about Usman Edwards being a tight turnaround. This is 2 months sort of later that, these guys competed 2 months later. and are only competing a month later than Edwards and Adesanya. I think they were struggling for a headliner for this fight night
No,
card.
probably. Yeah, probably.
And,
That's
they were
probably
looking at Aljamain Sterling, Henry Cejudo. That obviously couldn't go ahead because of Aljamain's, I think it's bicep injury.
yeah. Which that's very much like Aljamain has been framed as the bad guy, but like he's injured. What do you want him to do? He's injured. Like I know that you wanted him to headline, but like you want him going to the fight with an injury? Like it's a dumb argument that somehow Aljamain looks like the bad guy after all
Exactly.
that. Anyway,
And it's I think you do have to ask the question as well of what happens. This is what happens when you put a champion versus champion fight on, because Alexander Volkanovski, if he hadn't been competing in February, probably be ready to go. Well, he'd definitely be ready to go and scheduled to go around April against Yair Rodriguez or Josh Emmett. Or, on the other side, Islam Makhachev would be ready to go in April. But this is the sort of risk that you take when you put these champion versus champion fights. It holds up two divisions in a way of sorts, and this is also what happens when you've got a weak bantamweight division in females bantamweight.
Female bantamweight, yeah. I was like, what are you talking? Female bantamweight.
Female bantamweight. Amanda Nunes should be fighting again. I think the last time she fought was July last year against Pena.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and
she'll be set out for almost. I mean, even if she's scheduled for May, June, that's 10, 11 months when she set out, when she took almost zero damage against Pena that second fight.
Yeah.
I don't quite know why we're having people sit out for so long, but it's because of these sort of double division holdups. But again, I'm not mad about that fight at all. So I'm happy that fight's happening.
Do you think UFC 287, this announcement, they said it, and it was Jorge Masvidal and Giblert and Alex Pereira, and it was like a big deal on Twitter, and a location still hasn't been confirmed for this event. Do you think something else was going on behind the scenes and they were going to announce something else that fell through and then they just had to do this one? It seemed like they were about to announce something bigger than this.
Yeah.
It is suspicious that the location hasn't been announced for this. It's like they had something else and then they had to just do this one at the last minute, right?
I think that they could have been announcing the McGregor return against Ferguson.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Or probably this card. Well, actually, maybe not for this card because they would have been coaching on Tough together potentially. But
that's what it sounds like. Yeah, McGregor, Ferguson, Tough. Yeah.
And then we had the story of McGregor and the yacht coming out this week, which has probably put that on the back burner a bit.
McGregor's done a lot of crappy things, and this might be the most damning. That's saying a lot. This is it's not looking good.
It's not looking good for him at all, especially because there's legitimate evidence for this lady's claim. I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't know enough about it, and I don't want to mistalk on it, as it were. But, but it does seem like it is, UFC going live, Dana White going live. Oh my god, it's the rematch that we kind of knew was happening.
Yeah,
but also it's the return of Jorge Masvidal. For me, the facade around Masvidal is gone. He got outpointed on short notice, which can happen to anyone. He then got knocked stiff. He then got pretty badly dominated by his biggest rival and never really pulled the trigger when he had Colby hurt.
Yes, I know.
And Gilbert is a terrible matchup for him. An awful matchup for him.
Look, this guy was a journeyman in Strikeforce, and he hasn't really gotten better. That's all. That's all I can say about his career.
And this career resurgence of the Darren Till knockout, the Ben Askren knockout, the Nate Diaz finish, doctor stoppage.
Pretty cool 2019. I'll give him that.
It was fun while it lasted. But, let's not get mistaken. We've seen, those wins have not aged particularly well.
No.
Darren Till, since that fight, he was coming off a loss, and since that fight has lost, I think, 3 or 4 more. Ben Askren, I think, had one more fight in the UFC after that against Damian Maia and looked dog shit, and then was knocked out by Jake Paul.
Yes.
Nate Diaz, I mean, I think the tide of that fight was turning, but Nate Diaz, it's kind of just continued to be Nate Diaz. Won some, lost some against Edwards, won some against Tony. And then when he came up against someone legitimate in Kamaru Usman, badly beaten twice. Legitimate against Colby Covington, badly beaten twice. Legitimate against Gilbert Burns, I think he's going to get badly beaten.
Oh, Gilbert's going to eat him alive. Ground on the feet. Gilbert's better everywhere.
And this is what we were kind of talking about in the MMA Sucka group chat. Is I just don't see this one being particularly competitive. I don't see what Jorge does that makes him particularly competitive in this fight, because, like you say, Gilbert is just better. The fight hits the floor
better,
so years ahead of Masvidal. On the feet, you know, it's more even, but I still think Gilbert hits harder. You know, taking into account these guys were both lightweights. If you look at the frame of both men, Gilbert is now a fully fledged welterweight.
He's a big boy. He's a good sized boy.
Yeah, and Masvidal isn't. Again, but this one for me makes a lot more sense to go on the UFC London card. Masvidal's fought in London before. Gilbert, we know, is willing to travel, and it provides a backup if one of the main event fighters falls out. But you know, UFC aren't forward thinking about this. But I think, you know, the co-main event is, on paper, it's exciting, it's good, but Masvidal's not going to. I don't think he's going to sort of talk shit to Gilbert Burns, because Gilbert we're not really in that sort of hateful phase. I think these, you know, the fight was signed because these guys kind of need each other at this point in their careers. The main event is going to be fascinating. Already we've seen Adesanya promote it more than the UFC has with that promo that he dropped, and I think
his YouTube channel is really good for getting me hyped.
So make sure to follow and subscribe to us, but also follow and subscribe to Izzy, because Izzy's channel is really good. But I think it's going to be a fascinating fight, because Alex has to start where he finished off in. You know, he has to start almost midway through round 5 or sort of start round 6 of the first fight. He has to start quickly, because he knows that Izzy can outpoint him for 25 minutes. And let's be honest, Izzy was on his way to outpointing him across the 25 minutes. I think we'll sort of see a more wrestle heavy Israel Adesanya, because he was dominating in the wrestling game.
But as the counterpoint, this is exactly what we said when this fight was announced for their first match in the UFC. Israel Adesanya has been acting technical and trying to be a really fading counterpuncher and not stepping on the gas when he needs to step on the gas. And then against Pereira, you're going to give him 25 minutes
to one shot.
And then he did. I don't think Adesanya can afford to outpoint him and move and fade for 25 minutes. He needs to look like he did at the end of the first round, end of the second round, where like you need to actually put him away when you get the chance. Because if you give him 25 minutes, he's going to be there nonstop. This guy's not going away. His left hook was just as relevant after 25 minutes as it is in the first minute. Like, you can't give him 25 minutes. You know what I mean? So I think that this fight is the one to watch. This is a good one.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I completely agree. He knows he can outpoint him for 25 minutes, but he also knows that it literally takes one shot, because that wasn't accumulation of shots that Izzy took. It was one shot that completely rocked his world. And then it was the accumulation of the other shots that essentially finished the fight. It wasn't, you know, a multitude of shots it's not a Max Holloway kind of finish where Max will hit you with 1,000 punches.
Yeah.
It was one big left hook, like we alluded to in the preview. Like, you know, you did an article on Alex Pereira's left hooks.
Left hook. Never mind the other stuff, just the left hook.
Just always circle to your left to avoid Alex Pereira's left hook. But, you know, and we know that it takes literally, like we said, one shot to finish things.
Yeah.
Izzy can't afford to try it. Like, you know, we saw he was cruising to a victory. He was 3-1 up going into that final round, in my opinion. He can't afford to do that again, because we quite literally know what happens. 2 minutes and 1 second into the 5th round, it was finished.
Yep.
Crazy finish. Brilliant finish. Awesome. And Alex Pereira did what he had to do. He did what he knew that he could do and finished things with just one shot. And, you know, we talk about the fact that there's not much time in between the two fights. I'm not sure who that plays into favour more with regards to the weight, because Alex Pereira is a much bigger guy than Israel Adesanya. He's obviously blown up slightly since that fight, but now he has to come back down. So how badly will, you know, his weight could be affected and whatnot with that. With Israel Adesanya, he has no time to put on any weight and any size and still, you know, and be effective. You know, if he put on more muscle mass, because let's be honest, Izzy isn't a big guy. If he put on more muscle mass, it would benefit him a lot in this fight.
Mhm.
His ability to take a shot, I think, would increase, and his ability to, be able to, like we say, we're sort of leaning towards a more wrestling heavy approach. Obviously, we'll break it down a lot more detail in on fight
Yes.
week and leading up to the fight. But he was dominating in the wrestling game. Naturally, the bigger you are, the easier it is going to be to hold your opponent down. When your opponent is that much bigger than you are, yes, there's obviously technique, and technique plays into it massively. But when your opponent is that much bigger than you, it's going to be a lot easier for him to get up. I could
Yes.
have the best technique in the world. I'm probably not holding down Roy Nelson.
No.
I'm probably going to struggle. But
Yes.
against someone like a Davison Figueiredo, even if I have the worst technique in the world, physically I'm going to be able to sort of lie on him a bit more. We see it with Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder. He was so much bigger, and he just leaned on him and just drained the fight out of it. Flip that on its head. I think Izzy won't have enough time now to put on enough size for that size to be a factor in his favor. So it'll be interesting to see how that fight kind of plays out with regards to the size.
And we have questions on both of their wrestling ability. Both of them have used fairly not bad like counter wrestling, but it's very much a benefit of competing at middleweight, where it's never come up as an issue.
Exactly.
Has Israel Adesanya got good enough takedowns? I actually don't know if he does. We just have never seen it. Does Pereira have any takedown defense? Probably not. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of questions.
And I do think there will be quite a big factor of Glover now going full in on Alex Pereira.
Yes.
Now that he doesn't have to be slightly selfish and think about himself.
This is protege.
Exactly. He will be going full in on Alex Pereira, making sure that he is as prepared for this fight as possible without having, a potential of his own fight in the background ticking away in the back of his head. He will be going 100% in on Alex Pereira, which I think, could make a difference. We could be looking at the trainer of the year. We had Khabib as trainer of the year. We could be looking at a Glover trainer of the year. So we'll see come April how much of a factor that plays.
But the more I think about it, the more I do like the Jamal Hill fight. I feel like we're just that's the one I really like. And I think win or lose, Pereira might want to go up and weight. It's light heavyweight is the weakest it's been in a long time, and that's actually saying something.
Exactly. We're the fact that we have to ask who's next, and we don't have a whole string of contenders. It's not that we're asking who's next because this guy deserves it and this guy deserves it, and this. We're asking who's next because there aren't the contenders there. We dropped down to bantamweight. We've got Aljamain Sterling's the champion. Who's next? Well, it could be the winner of Petr versus Dvalishvili, but Dvalishvili won't fight him. It could be a return to Henry Cejudo. It could be Sugar Sean O'Malley.
Yeah.
It could be the winner of Marlon Vera versus Corey Sandhagen. All of these are on the table. With featherweight, we've obviously got the interim title, so we'll have Volkanovski. I think win or lose will fight the interim title winner. Islam Makhachev. We've got Justin Gaethje versus Fiziev, obviously booked for the month after that. We've got rumors of the return of Charles Oliveira against Benny Dariush. We've got Dustin Poirier coming off a big win. Welterweight, we've got Bilal Muhammad, Hamzat, Colby. Middleweight, we've obviously got these two guys. We've then got Robert Whittaker, and we've got Delodzi coming through. Heavyweight is a bit of a mess, but you've still got plenty of contenders. You've got Jones, Garn, Stipe, Aspinall, Pavlovich.
There's a new guy there. But here's the thing with light heavyweight. Anthony Smith is coming off a loss. He beats Jamal Hill, right? There's just stuff like that.
The fact that they were scheduled to fight last time, before Jamal Hill got this fight, you're looking at probably Ankalaev being next, but he didn't convince me in his last fight against Jan Blachowicz that he deserves that title shot.
Yeah, I think it was on Morning Combat. They were like, "There's 8 guys at light heavyweight who." Like Jamal Hill is better than we thought, but I don't think he beats like that top 8 guys. Anyway, it's just an ugly division. But if Alex Pereira wants to go up and be a part of that big like double champ history, now's the best time to do it. There's not going to be a better opportunity.
Especially because of his size isn't going to play a factor. Sometimes we think, oh God, is this guy going to be, like when Izzy went up to light heavyweight, he was too small.
Yeah, he was way too small.
Alex Pereira is going to be borderline too big for light heavyweight. If he's going to make, like you say, if he's going to make the jump up, he has to do it soon because he is a big old boy.
There was one shot of him shaking hands with Jamal Hill, and Alex Pereira was way bigger than like
Exactly.
it wasn't.
And this is
It
on
wasn't
fight night. This is on Jamal Hill's fight night. So it's not like he's done it at weigh-ins when he's cut all this weight down.
yeah.
This is after he's just gone 25 minutes. Like fucking hell.
Anyway, next week we're gonna be back UFC 284. It's in Perth. You weren't getting it. It's really top heavy, isn't it? Like it's an okay time zone for us where I think you and I can set an early alarm and get up at a fairly normal time to watch the main event.
Exactly.
And if I miss everything except the main event, that's all right. That's okay. It's not an amazing card, is it?
Yeah, it's difficult because the main event is phenomenal. The co-main event I think is really, really interesting, and I will always get on board with watching Jack Dalla Maddalena fight.
Sure.
There's also some interesting, Shane Young. I like Tyson Pedro, but again, like you say, if I sleep in and snooze my alarm and miss everything up to the I'd say the co-main event I'd like to watch, and then the main event,
yeah, I know,
I catch up on it. It is what it is.
I do like the main event though, and I think that's a tape study depth of card. That's a good one there. I'll try to put up something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what else is going on.
And then this week we have got. Come on.
Oh, Fedor Bader. It's gonna screw me up every time, but Fedor Bader 2. The first one, yeah, I guess it didn't feel like, and it's gonna look pretty much the same, isn't it? It's gonna look the same.
Supposed to be, I believe this is the retirement fight of Fedor, but it's kind of like why? The retirement fight for Fedor, in my opinion, was the Tim Johnson knockout in Moscow.
I agree. It didn't get better than that. That was fun. It was a cute moment. We all knew, like, yeah, this is pretty good. Bader is good. He's still in shape. He's still in his prime. He's not going to get...
I just don't get this fight. They last fought in 2019 and it lasted 35 seconds. I'm just not quite sure, even if Fedor wins, he becomes Bellator heavyweight champion and then gives the belt up and it's vacant and Bader probably wins it back.
I know. No. And I think his legacy is so secure. And I watched him fight live. Like I'm a massive Fedor fan. He's one of the guys I own t-shirts for. And I watched him fight the late stage of Pride. I fought him like when he fought in the, I think like Inoki Bombaye for a bit there, and then into Strikeforce, of course. I really like. Oh, and Affliction. I couldn't forget Affliction. I really do like Fedor, but even with a win, let's say he gets a win, this doesn't add anything to his legacy, but losing maybe affects his legacy a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. It's not one of those where he gets a win over, a legend. Ryan Bader's a solid competitor in the sport. He's not a legend of the sport. Yeah. He's steady. He didn't make it in the UFC and he made it in Bellator, like a lot of guys.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Like you say, a win over him, I don't think... It doesn't make me think that Fedor's any better. It doesn't make me... And a loss probably just... It doesn't even make me think that he's any worse. It maybe just, adds another number to his loss column because he's, 40 years old or however old Fedor is now. It's like, well, do we need this fight? And Bellator are shooting themselves in the foot because I think deep down they want Fedor to win because it'll get clicks and it'll get views and whatnot. But then they leave themselves with a vacant heavyweight title, which will probably, like I say, go back to Ryan Bader. So what's the point?
But even then, like there's no, and this isn't like a cute one where we think of like Randy Couture versus Big Nog. Like, yeah, you guys are both in your mid 40s, huge legacies and stuff like that. Fedor's 46. We're talking about if he wins. I don't think he wins, does he?
No, I don't. Unfortunately, I think Bader gets his. Yeah, so I mean, the more compelling fight for me is the co-main event: Johnny Eblen versus Anatoly Tokov.
That's a good one.
You've got a guy Eblen 12-0. You've got Tokov on a 7-fight winning run.
Yep,
that's going to be competitive, I think.
Yeah, it is. Johnny Eblen is King Mo's protege.
Yeah. And obviously he's coming off the win that I thought he would get battered in. I thought he'd get battered by Gegard Mousasi, and Mousasi got ancient overnight.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
It's difficult for me to watch Mousasi get ancient overnight. We've got Sabah Homasi on the card who will just come and either get knocked out or knock Brennan Ward out badly. That's just what he does. And the only other thing personally of note for me is I'm going to butcher it. Diana Avsaragova.
Yep.
Pantera. She's 24-year-old Russian. She's 5-0. She's good. She is good. I don't want her to get the Bellator treatment though. You know, at the moment she's fighting this weekend. Sorry, she's fighting Alejandra Lara, who is 9-6, coming off
Sure.
3 straight losses.
It's not great.
It's not great matchmaking. It's logical matchmaking, I guess. A more experienced girl going up against a less experienced girl, and the less experienced girl is on a undefeated on a winning run.
Sure.
I just don't want her to get the Bellator treatment. I want her to actually, you know, be tested. Tapology have got a rank number 67 as the best female flyweight.
You're asking a lot from Bellator here, man. You're asking a lot from Bellator.
I mean, yeah.
You know how many bus drivers and Uber drivers that we can line up to fight these people?
That's the thing. That's the issue, I think, with signing these one-fight deals. Is, you know, they've got, if I lose, so what kind of thing. I'm not. It is what it is kind of thing. It's disappointing.
And I'll admit it. I even like Michael Venom Page, but who did he beat? You know, I mean, like him.
He's tremendously skilled.
He is.
But how good is he? Well,
I know.
Idea. He lost to Mike Perry in a bare knuckle fight. Like,
how good is he?
Yeah, how good is he? His skill set is tremendous. He is very skilled.
He's so good.
I want to see him face Stephen Thompson. Why not? That's a fun fight. It's a style-friendly fight for both men. It'll never happen because Stephen Thompson's at the top of his game and Michael Venom Page seems to be on the sort of decline a little bit. But it's just disappointing. And, you know, segueing into more disappointment is the UFC Fight Night this weekend.
We were talking about that.
We were talking about it for about 10 seconds because outside of the main event, who cares about this fight card? You know,
Marcin Flaggy Ivanov is fine. Dooho Choi's back. Dooho Choi, our Korean boy, is back.
That's a good one. Article coming out on Dooho Choi this week, looking at whether that fight of the year with Cub Swanson actually hindered his career. Because
it might have. Yeah, he took some hits in that
one. He was so good up until that point. And since that point, he has not been so good. Let's just say that. You know, Dooho Choi is facing Carl Nelson. You know, he fought Cub Swanson. Taking into account, he'd never been knocked out before. He lost a decision back in 2010. He was knocking guys out. Fought Cub Swanson in that Hall of Fame.
Oh, amazing fight. Amazing
and
fight.
Been knocked out twice since. And
don't love it.
Against, like, you know, Jamie Stevens knocks a lot of people out, but Charles Jourdain is not a big puncher.
I know. But 3 years away. Kyle Nelson looks like a winnable.
Yeah,
it's winnable, right? If he's if he loses to Kyle Nelson, he's got to hang it up at this point.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You know, the main event, we got Derek Lewis. He's 1-3 in his last 4. They have all been against strikers, which is kind of ironic because you'd expect him to be losing against wrestlers. But then, you know, Blades, Oleinik, and Latifi, all wrestlers, and these all wins for Lewis.
Yeah, sure.
Spivak won 2 in a row. I've got Spivak won 2 in a row. And it was originally scheduled for November. That's about as much excitement as I can be asked to give this card. There's also the road to the UFC finals, 4 of them. I haven't been watching it, so I can't really comment on that. And we've got the return of Mandy Bomb, who should be she should be so. I think she's 0-2 now. She should be so much better than she is.
Yes,
she's not.
No,
but she's facing a girl who is,
loser leaves town.
She's 1-5. Maybe this girl is 1-5 in her last 6 UFC fights. Having missed weight twice. She puts on fun fights. Two fight of the nights.
Mandy Bomb should win. If you need a good bet, a safe bet. Actually, I don't even know if that's true. Mandy Bomb hasn't
on paper. I think the safe bet is the main event to go under 5 rounds, because I think either Derek Lewis knocks him out or Spivak TKOs him and gets him tired. I'd say Mandy Bomb to win, because let's be honest now, she is so much better than what she's shown in the octagon so far.
Yeah. And
you probably put Tybor and Ivanov to go the distance, and you'd probably put Darren Young by knockout. I think he's got an exciting style. Obviously, he lost to Dustin Jacoby. I think that was the same card that we had Jack Shaw lose on. Yeah, the same card as Jack Shaw lost on back in July. I think he probably knocked out Devin Clark. But
I almost think the opposite of, like, both of them are very hittable, but I think Devin Clark just finds the finds the home first. But
Yeah, I mean,
it's a light
it's
heavyweight fight. It's a
it's
light
light
heavyweight.
heavyweight, and it's the most light heavyweight fight that we're going to see. It's just like two guys that are not going to be anywhere near the title, and also aren't going to probably be cut because they'll get a couple of wins and then lose, and then they'll get a couple of wins and then lose. But
Whoever lands first is winning
exactly.
that one.
Duo Choi will be a fun fight. He always is, and like
Yeah.
I say, Mandy Bomb is. We're looking at Mandy Bomb getting right back into where she should be.
She's making us look stupid. She was a prospect watch 2021. Look, we look stupid now.
Yeah, you're making us look shit, Mandy. Come on.
Anyway, let's get out of here for the week. We covered every event coming up. Frazer, thanks for your time. What do you got going on this week? And talk us on out of here.
Yeah, I've got an interview with Impa Kasanganai, who makes his PFL debut on Friday night at light heavyweight. So I'm excited to talk to him. I'm interviewing him tomorrow. So that'll be up on the site by probably either tomorrow evening or Wednesday. Nice. And then, we've got a couple of top 10 post-fight interviews, which they've been great to watch, to be honest. They've been really good to reminisce on. I think I've got a top 5 beatdowns, just one-sided, where you think it's going to be competitive and it's just not coming out. So, that's me for this week. And then, keep on MMA Sucka. We've got plenty on the YouTube channel, so subscribe because there's a lot coming out on the YouTube channel. We're putting a lot more effort into the podcast this year and really looking to take it to the next level. We had obviously Melissa on a few weeks ago. We'll be looking to get a few more guests on here and now. And
the YouTube channel getting banned screwed up our rhythm because I think we were actually lining up a little bit more, but then we didn't even have a page to
exactly. We couldn't send people to a page if it didn't exist. But I'm excited. We're going to be looking at doing a little bit more analysis on our podcast, on our YouTube video. The good thing about this week is that the fight night card is pretty shit, so we can just pretty much go in on UFC 284 and just focus on the analysis of the main event, co-main event. So be sure to tune in again next week and take it easy.
All right, cheers. Thanks, man.